One thing that we can all agree on is that the most important thing that we learned how to do growing up in school is write in cursive. Am I right? Nobody really agree? Raise your hand if you ever learned something in school that you don't really use anymore. Yeah, pretty much everybody, right? Well, I felt the same way, but probably for a different reason. It's because when I was growing up in high school, I was the class clown. This is a real picture of me with my thumb down in chemistry class and an actual report card. I was a bad student, and I had this anomalous other property about myself. I was a good test taker, which didn't really make sense in academia. The academic system made me feel a lot like an awkward black sheep. Like they didn't really have a place for a kid like me. So think about where my trajectory might have led me. I was a class clown with bad grades. I didn't comply very well, but awkwardly, I was this good test taker. What trajectory does that set me on? Well, if you fast forward 10 years, you'll find me in Las Vegas with a crazy story. Not that kind of crazy story. I'm talking about CES, the Consumer Electronics Showcase. It is one of the best events in the world because all of the most innovative technologies in existence for the year are showcased to people before they are unveiled to the masses and the public. And one of the most impressive technologies that was unveiled this year was Ameca, the robot. Ameca blew people away because in January 2022, she did something that almost nobody had ever experienced before. She could respond to people's questions, their prompts, in real time by looking at them and talking to them. And so you might expect traditional questions you'd ask ChatGPT today, like, are you conscious, or what's life's meaning? But you all remember, I'm the class clown. So I decided to ask Ameca some different kind of questions. Do you have a boyfriend? I asked Ameca. I do not have a boyfriend. Are you asking for a friend? I'm asking for me, I said with a confident smirk, shooting my shot at Ameca, feeling like I got the upper hand. Unfortunately, I'm not on the market. Robots do not have relations. Do you have a boyfriend? I was shocked at Ameca's ability to banter with me in real time. It was an incredible experience. I didn't really have anything to say. She left me speechless. But she wasn't done yet. She finished the conversation saying, I'll take that as a yes. The memory of that experience after this crowd erupts in laughter is permanently etched into my brain. I still remember that little smirk that Ameca had on her face. But the problem is, I'm not the only person that remembers it. Actually, 20 million people now remember it because somebody was recording that moment with their phone. And it got 20 million views, made national news, and catapulted Ameca, partially, into global fame. And now, as a STEM educator that teaches people about technology tools, the most viewed video of my career is me getting rejected asking for a robot's number. It's not lost on me. But what will happen later on is that the next iteration of GPT, several months later, would change everything. ChatGPT would have this ability to draft college essays and solve novel math problems and make us wonder if academia and school as it exists is necessary today. Go forward a few more years and you'd see abysmal great math and reading scores from students. Year over year, our ability to take these tests and succeed was decreasing. And a research study that came out by MIT suggested that due to a phenomenon known as cognitive offloading, our brains are atrophying as a result of using these AI tools. And so we're all starting to wonder, is the AI era going to make our cognitive capacity increase or decrease? One thing that's crystal clear today is that because of the AI era and what exists right now, the standard path for students today is completely outdated. I mean, consider the experience of a good student, someone that gets good grades and participates in class. Well, they're going to be learning about things that a ChatGPT prompt can probably answer. Then they're going to go get a college degree. They might go into debt and learn about things that they can't get jobs for. But let's say they get lucky enough to get into a job. They go into a job market where the job is going to be obsolete in a few years. That is not a scalable or sustainable solution for any kind of student, and we need to do something about that. Most people's actual journey doesn't really look like this linear path anymore. It's not working in one job and staying there for 20 years. It's trying different things, failing them, iterating over and over again, exploring your curiosity, and then maybe landing into something that feels like success. I know that's what my journey was like. After Ameca's rejection, I went on to teach millions of people about science, technology, and train hundreds of thousands of people on precisely the AI tools that powered Ameca when she rejected me. The irony's not lost on me with that one. And what I tell people all the time is that AI is revealing the skills that actually matter today. Research suggests it's curiosity, adaptability, and leadership, among a few other skills. But these aren't skills that our traditional academic system allows us to test for. How do we test for those things at scale? In order to understand that, we first must understand how standardized tests came to be. In 605 AD, Chinese imperial exams first began to be administered across the country for the purposes of creating upward mobility for their citizens and homogenizing values across the nation. The Westerners caught on to this idea and thought, that's a pretty solid idea, and they iterated on it by innovating things or incorporating something called the Socratic method. And this is where students would stand up in front of their teachers, in front of all their peers, and demonstrate their knowledge by speaking in front of people. It was great for verbally fluent students, but not everybody has that verbal fluency. So a man by the name of Horace Mann came along in 1845 and suggested something different. He said that written exams would be far more objective. He advocated for a small group of students in Boston to take a written form of an examination to showcase the fairness of written exams. Almost 200 years later, we understand the biases that exist in written examinations. Consider this real question from an SAT test in the 1980s. Runner is to marathon as blank is to blank. Do you know the answer? It might be confusing for some of you, and if you guessed C, you'd be right. Oarsman is to regatta. And in order to understand what a regatta is, you have to be in a privileged socioeconomic part of society that participates in these regattas, these boat races that are primarily done by yachts. And if you don't have that socioeconomic privilege, you don't have access to the information, and you might not get the answer right on the test. That's how it works, right? And we knew these biases existed, but we continued to propagate standardized tests across society because we believed that we needed to produce a mass production mindset in everybody. We needed people to work in factories or corporate offices where they have to comply, follow instructions, and think like everybody else in order to fit into a bigger system. But all of that is changing right now. All of that is different. Standardized tests in 1927, this is a real photo, by the way, looked pretty much like this. And standardized tests in 2026, almost 100 years later, look almost exactly the same. So what can we actually do about that? They prepare us for a society that no longer exists. Horace Mann advocated for an old standard of fairness in 1845. He wanted written exams and mass-produced tests. And I'm here today to advocate for a brand new standard of fairness in the AI era. What is now possible today is for us to produce personalized tests at scale, to use AI tools and aggregate student data to create an individual test that tests students' aptitude in the best way it could possibly test it. Let me give you an example. Let's take Isla, 17-year-old. She's a good dancer, she's good with numbers, and she performs best on verbal tests, but she struggles with crippling test anxiety. So she wants a calming environment when she goes into her test room. What would a personalized test for Isla look like? Maybe something like this. Before she walks in, she hears this calming music as she enters this sound stage, and she's wearing a motion capture suit. And she's able to communicate and perform her spatial intelligence while answering questions verbally that don't test for correctness, because we could just prompt that with ChatGPT. Instead, they test traits that we are looking for in the workforce today: her curiosity in asking deeper questions, her resilience in the face of challenges, or her ability to exude leadership with simulated peers in this testing experience. This is all possible today. We already have the technology to do something like this. I mean, think about the class clown version of me, right? Maybe a test that would be best for me would explore my creativity, like my ability to come up with smart responses when teachers ask questions, or my flexibility to interact with different groups of kids and all make them laugh, or perhaps my analysis, because one of my favorite things to do was analyze what the teacher wrote on the chalkboard and tell her when she got something wrong. But I'm not the only person that's experienced this. I know everybody in this room, when they were a teenager, had the experience of high school not working for them in some regard. This standardized, generalized approach to testing and school probably didn't work for you because it was never meant to. Think about what a perfectly optimized, personalized test would look like for each of you. How would you envision that experience working for you? I think it's a fascinating thought experiment because that student still exists in each and every one of us today, but we just never were given the right test. Thank you.